Now coming to utility. Uh, the capacity of goods or services to satisfy a human wants is known as utility. Utility is amount of expected satisfaction to be derived from commodity or service at particular point of time. It is subjective concept. It is subjective concept. Uh, Only the consumer can judge the utility of a commodity. For example, the utility of a packet of cigarettes is zero to non-smoker. Means non-smoker, the utility it will for non-smoker the utility is zero. Uh, while the same packet may have very high utility, or high utility for the smoker. Thus, the utility of a commodity differs from individual to individual. Further, utility differs from place to place and time to time. For example, same individual may not derive the same utility from the commodity over time. Therefore, utility depends on two things. They are inherent quality of goods and services, the intensity of consumer for that goods and services at that point of time. Uh, there are they depends on the utility depends on two things, which are inherent quality of goods and services, the intensity of wants of consumer for that goods and services at that point of time. Okay. uh, Types of utility. Coming to types of utility, there are different types of utility. Form utility. First we discuss about the form utility. Form utility is based on the color or based on the changing of color or shape or size. For example, conversion of wood or log into a chair or a table. Play. Another one is place utility. Place utility, uh, based on the changing of the place of some goods acquire utility. For example, sand on the sea shore have no utility. But if it is brought out the transported to the market, suppose the sand is transported to the market, it gains the utility. Okay? Time utility. Next one is time utility. Goods acquire additional utility because of time. For example, during the harvest season, food grains are available in plenty. Business people purchase the stocks or stores them and sell these products at the latter stage. The utility that is added by storage is known as time utility. Okay. Uh, the service next one is service utility. Service utility also have the capacity to satisfy human wants. For example, service of teachers, lawyers, doctors, etc. These service directly satisfy human wants. Therefore, they are called as service utilities. Uh, Now coming to the Next, uh, after understanding the utility, types of utility, coming to the total utility. Total utility refers to the sum total of satisfaction which the consumer derives by consuming the various units of commodities. Uh, for example, uh, the more units of commodity he consumes, greater will be the total utility or satisfaction from it up to the certain point. As he keeps on increasing consumption of commodity, he eventually reaches at a point of saturation representing by maximum total utility. Uh, a perfect definition of utility, total utility is defined as the sum of utilities derived by consumers from different units of commodity. Suppose a consumer consumes different units of, suppose the consumer consumes different units X commodity, say X1, X2, X3, X4, and so on. Then the total utility derived by consumer from consumption of all units of X is defined as TUX. The total utility is denoted by TU. Actually, total utility is denoted by TU. The equation of total utility is TUX equals to UX1 plus UX2 plus UX3 plus so on. Okay. Here TUX equals to total utility from X. Okay. TU equals to total utility from X. UX1 equals to utility from X1 units and of sorry, uh, utility from X1 units of X and UX2 means units of X2 units of X and UX3 is utility from X3 units of X. Okay. Next, after total utility, next we have to understand about the marginal utility. Uh, marginal means additional unit. Simply means additional unit. Okay, this refers to changing total utility as a result of consuming one additional unit of commodity. Okay, for example, assuming that consumer is consuming X1, X2, X3 units of X commodity, the total utility derived by this consumer is equal to UX1, as I said previously, UX1 plus UX2 plus UX3. Okay, the marginal utility as he increases his consumption from X1 to X2 derived by consumer from X2 derived by a consumer from X2. Okay, is that X1, X2, X3 are small units and hence the increasing in consumption is also small. Is UX1 plus UX2 minus UX1 equals to AUX1. Okay. This AUX is the change of total utility due to the consuming additional unit of X commodity. Follow, suppose the equation of marginal utility can be written as MUM equals to T, total utility of N minus total utility of N minus 1. Okay. Here MUM equals to marginal utility from N commodities. TUN equals to total utility from N. And TUN minus 1 equals to total utility from N minus 1. That means preceding unit. Okay. Next, the marginal utility of good. The perfect definition of marginal utility of good can be defined as marginal utility of good is defined as the change in total utility resulting from change in one unit of consumption of good. That is MUX equals to the ATUX by AQX. Okay, where MUX, ATUX, and AQ here in the equation MUX, ATUX, and AQX are marginal utility, change in change in total utility, change in quantity of X, quantity of good X expressed X. Okay. Another way of finding the marginal utility is differentiating total utility function, which the total utility function is TUX by QUX. Uh, by differentiating, we get the marginal utility. For example, dTUX by dQX, okay, where utility function is taken as continuous rather than discrete. This utility function can be taken as continuous rather than discrete. Okay. Next, next we have to come to approaches to utility analysis. Okay. We have two different approaches. One is cardinal utility approach and ordinal utility approach. Cardinal utility approach means the utility is measured in the numbers. Okay, means 1, 2, 3, exact numbers. Okay, we measured in numerical measurable values. Okay, next ordinal utility approach is measured in ranks. Suppose utility is site entry and it cannot be therefore be measured in quantitative terms. This is not utility. Utility is not measured in quantitative terms, is known as ordinal approach, whereas cardinal approach is measured in quantitative terms. Okay. uh, uh, Coming to the cardinal approach. Okay. First, uh, cardinal approach assumptions. First, we study about the assumptions of cardinal approach. Rational consumer. This approach is assumed that the consumers are rational. The consumers are rational in the sense. Okay, all the consumers try to maximize their utility from given money income. Okay, the consumers are tries to maximize their utility. Okay, by given income. Okay. Next assumption is utility is measurable. Utility is measurable. The cardinal name itself is as utility is measurable. Okay. Utility derived by consumer from different units of commodity can be measured in terms of numbers. The utility can be measured in terms of numbers. In cardinal, this assumption says that utility can be measured in terms of numbers. Okay. Next, utility is independent. Utility is independent means the utility is independent of every other commodity. This implies the utility from any commodity depends on its quantity only. The utility depends on its quantity only. Okay. Next to assumption, marginal utility of money is constant. Okay. Means the marginal utility of money is constant. According to Marshall used money as a measuring rod to the measuring utility. He says that measuring rod to the measuring utility. So he assumed that marginal utility of money remains constant. Okay. Next, diminishing marginal utility. Coming to the diminishing marginal utility. According to this approach, additional utility derived from the consumption of successive units of commodity diminishing and means The every successive unit of commodity, every consumption of successive unit diminishes the utility. Okay. Uh, in this, the cardinal utility approach, there are two important theories. First is a law of diminishing marginal utility, law of diminishing marginal utility, and law of equimarginal utility. Now we discuss about those theories. Okay. Next, the law of diminishing marginal utility. Uh, this is propounded by Marshall. First, propounded by first. Originally, this was explained by Gaussian. That's why this is called Gaussian's first law. After Marshall improved this, okay. After this theory was improved by Marshall. This theory explains the relationship between changes in total utility due to the changes in quantity consumed of commodity. Uh, Total utility due to the changes in quantity consumed of the commodity. This law states that the quantity consumed of the commodity increases, the utility derived from each successive unit decreases. Means uh, the utility is decreases from each successive unit. Okay. Marshall define the Marshall definition is about this theory is the law of diminishing marginal utility as the marginal utility of thing to thing to any one diminishes with every increasing amount of it he already has. This is the definition of definition given by the Marshall. Okay, according to this law, as consumer consumes more, this definition tells that as the consumer consumes more and more units of commodity at a given point of time, the additional utility or marginal utility diminishes uh, uh, with every successive increase. Okay. Next, next coming to the explanation part of this law. Okay. Suppose the table, suppose the units of x in table, units of x, tu means total utility, marginal utility. Okay. Suppose the units of x 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Next total utility 30, 50, 60, 65, 65, 60. Okay. Next, marginal utility 30, 20, 10, 5, 0, minus 5. Okay. Here, see, suppose the total utility is increasing. Every successive unit, consumption of successive, every consumption of successive unit increases the total utility. Okay. As the increase in the total utility, the marginal utility declines. Okay, this is known as diminishing marginal utility. After the after some point, the marginal utility becomes negative. Okay, marginal utility becomes negative. Uh, Next, assumptions of this theory. Uh, this law takes into this law takes to three assumptions. First, the taste and preference of the consumer remains constant during the analysis. The taste and preference of the consumer remains constant during the analysis. Okay, all units of commodity community are next one. All units of community are homogeneous or identical. Means the community of the units of community are homogeneous and identical. Means same. Okay. no time gap is allowed between the consumption of any two units. There is no time gap between any consumption of any two units. Okay. Next, coming to the importance of this law. Okay. Marshall uses the law of diminishing marginal utility as a basis of law of demand. According to the law of demand, as the price of commodity falls, consumer tends to demand more of that commodity. Means the price of the commodity falls, the consumer demands more. Okay, the price and the demand are negatively related. As we know, the price and demand are negatively related. Means the price of the commodity falls, the consumer demands more commodity. Okay. So that diminishing utility equals to the reduced price. The diminishing utility means reduced price. Okay. This law is also basis of value theory. This law also based on the value theory. It provides answer of the famous of this theory is water diamond paradox. Okay, water diamond paradox means the water is essential commodity, but it has no exchange value. Means there is no exchange value for water. On the other hand, diamond has no use of value, but they have exchange value. Water has value, but no exchange value. But the diamond has no use of value, but they has exchange value. Okay. The reason for the above paradox is that water is available in plenty. The water is available in plenty. When diamonds are rare, so that's why the diamonds are precious. Water is unprecious. Okay. The marginal utility of processing of diamond will be high. The marginal utility of diamond is high, whereas the water's marginal utility is low. Okay, hence they are from next importance of this theory is this law helping government by formulating tax policy. Means the government use this theory for tax policy formulation. Okay, law of diminishing next one law of diminishing marginal utility is based on two concepts of consumer surplus. The law of diminishing marginal based on the consumer surplus concept. Okay, consumer surplus. Next, coming to the law of equimarginal utility. As we previously discussed about the law of diminishing marginal utility, after we come into the law of equimarginal utility. Okay, this law is this law is also given by the Gaussian first. After the Marshall is improved. That's why this is called as Gaussian second law. Diminishing marginal utility is called as Gaussian's first law. Equimarginal utility is called as Gaussian's second law. Okay. This theory also known as law of substitution or law of maximum satisfaction. The law of equimarginal utility also known as law of substitution, law of maximum satisfaction. Okay. This theory explains how the consumers attain equilibrium by expending a given amount of income on different commodities. Okay. Explains how the consumer attains equilibrium by spending a given amount of income on on different commodities. Suppose the consumer gives income on different commodities, how the consumer attains equilibrium, how the consumer tries to in the equilibrium. Okay, this theory explains that. Okay, next assumptions of this law. First coming to the first assumption is utility derived from one commodity is independent of utility from another commodity. That is, utility is independent. Simply it means utility is independent of any factor. Okay, income of the consumer is given. That income of the consumer is given. Next one, it is possible to measure utility in terms of numbers. The utility is measured in terms of numbers. Okay, marginal utility of money remains constant. Next assumption is marginal utility of money is constant. Constant marginal utility. Okay, utility derived from any next one, utility derived from any commodity depends on its quantity only. The utility of commodity depends on its quantity only. That is, marginal utility equals to function of qx. Okay. Coming to the explanation, suppose the while purchasing these goods, while purchasing a goods, a consumer always follows the principle law of substitution. Means law of substitution means law of equal marginal utility. Always the consumer approaches the theory law of substitution, which gives a greater utility. Substituting of a commodity means the substituting of commodity gives a greater utility. For a commodity which gives lesser price, suppose the price of the commodity, suppose the consumer derives 20 units of utility from 1 unit of X commodity, whose price is rupees 1. Suppose by spending rupees 1 on Y, there are two commodities X and Y. 20 units of utility X and Y. He is spending on 1 rupee on Y. He derives more than 20 units of utility. Let us suppose 30 units, then the consumer will prefer or substitute Y commodity in place of X commodity. Suppose consumer is substituted to Y commodity to X. Means there is a substitution between Y to X. Okay, this substitution process is goes on until the gets same marginal utility. The consumer gets same marginal utility after he stops the substitution. Okay, in such situation the total utility becomes maximum. After where the marginal utility becomes same, the total utility becomes maximum. Okay, then he attains the equilibrium. Okay, next is coming to the demand curve. Derivation of demand curve from utility analysis. Uh, we have already seen in the preceding analysis that to attain equilibrium, okay, means mu means MUA by PA must be equal to MUM. Suppose there is a fall in price of A from PA to P1, PA1. Suppose the price of the A is falls to PA to PA1. Then the marginal utility of A is the MUA by PA is greater than MUM. Okay. Under this condition, the consumer does not reach equilibrium. To reach equilibrium, the consumer now buys more of commodity A. To reach the equilibrium, the consumer buys more of commodity A. As a result, the purchasing more of A at reduced price, MUA demises their MUA by PA will be equal to MUM. If the price of A falls further from PA to PA2, PA1 to PA2, then MUA by PA2 greater than MUM. Okay. In order to equate MUA by PA2 with MUM, the consumer buys more of A, say OQ3, OQ2, so that MUA diminishes. If there is a further fall in a price of A from PA2 to PA3, then to equate MUA3, and the consumer buys still larger quantity of A, say OQ3. Based on the above discussion, we can derive demand schedule as demand. This from the above analysis, we derive the demand schedule as prices. PA1, suppose the prices PA1, PA2, PA2. Quantity of A, quantity of A, OQ1, OQ2, OQ3. Suppose the price of the commodity is PA1. The quantity of the quantity is demanded by consumer OQ1. Suppose the price of the commodity PA2, the quantity demanded by consumer OQ2. Suppose the price of the commodity PA3, the quantity demanded by the consumer OQ3. After joining this all points, we get the demand curve. Okay. Next, criticisms of utility analysis. According to the cardinal utility, there is the criticism, some criticisms of this analysis. According to cardinal utility analysis, utility can be measured numerically. The cardinal utility, the utility does not measure the numerical. Means the utility is a psychic term. Means the utility is qualitative term. Okay. This approach is measured, the cardinal utility measures numerical term. Okay. But critics pointed out that utility is related to psychology of individual. It depends on the psychology of individual. The individual psychology, the utility depends on individual psychology. Okay. Does not measure the number. Next, according to the Marshall, utility demands from different goods are independent of each other. The utility of a demand of goods. Sometimes the utility depends on other goods also. But in cardinal approach, it says that independent. Okay. In fact, the other such utilities are dependent. Okay. The utility derived the consumer consuming a commodity not only depends on its own quantity but also on quantities of other commodities. Okay, the utility does not depends on only own quantity. but also depends on other quantities also. Okay? According to the Marshall, marginal utility of money remains constant. Marginal utility of money remains constant, he says. But in fact, marginal utility of money varies. Marginal utility of money varies. Different marginal utility of money different. Okay, changes. Okay, as the quantity of money a person decreases. Suppose the quantity of money a person decreases, the marginal utility will increases. Okay, why? Suppose the marginal quantity of money increases, the marginal utility of money decreases. Means the marginal utility of money and the marginal, sorry, the quantity of money and the marginal utility of money is negatively related. Okay, but in cardinal utility says that they are positively related. Okay, according to the cardinal analysis, the consumer always consumes a single commodity. Here, the consumer consumes only one single commodity. Because of this reason, cardinal utility is also known as single commodity model. The single commodity model is also known also also this theory also known as single commodity model. But the according to Hicks says that another economist Hicks says that consumer always consumes more than one commodity in combination. The consumers always consumes in combinations of more than one commodity. Okay. Next criticism, marginal Marshall, in his cardinal analysis, failed to decompose the price effect into income and substitution effect. Here, the Marshall does not explains about the price effect into income and substitution effects. Okay, therefore, it is also possible to different goods. This theory is does not possible for different goods. Okay. Till next, after completion of utility analysis, we come into the indifference curve analysis. Okay, indifference curve analysis. First, coming to the concept of indifference curve. Indifference curve is a mental condition in which consumer can't take a decision. Means the consumer can't take a decision. Where the situation where the consumer can't take a decision among the commodities. Indifference curve shows the various combination of two goods. Indifference curve shows the various combination of two goods which provide the same level of satisfaction. Means the combination of two goods which shows the same satisfaction. Each combination gives him the same satisfaction. Which combination they take, the combination gives the same satisfaction. Okay? Graphical, such combination graphical representation is known as indifference curve. Okay, first before discuss about the indifference curve, come to the indifference schedule. First we are understand about the indifference schedule. Okay, suppose the table is given combination of goods, units of goods, good X, units of good Y. Combinations A, B, C, D, E, F. so on. Okay, units of good X 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on. Okay, units of good Y 30, 40, 24, 16, like that. Okay, suppose combination A represents the units of good X. You suppose the good X is consumed in the units 1. Okay, then the consumer consumed in the consumer consumed Y good in units of 10. Okay, the good X is consumed in 1, then the consumer consumed the Y in 10. Okay, 10 units. Suppose the consumer consumed 2 units of good X, then the consumer consumed Y goods 11 units. Okay, like that. This combination is taken as after completing this all combination, we get at some point, then we draw a curve. That curve is known as indifference curve. Okay, that curve is known as indifference curve. Okay? Next, indifference map. Indifference map means a set of indifference curves. Means a bundle of indifference curves is known as indifference map. Okay. There is a set of indifference curve representing different levels of satisfaction to the consumer is known as indifference map. A single indifference curve shows different combinations which give the same level of satisfaction. Means the indifference curve gives the same level of satisfaction. Same level of satisfaction. Okay. Higher the indifference curve, higher the satisfaction. Okay. Lower the indifference curve, lower the satisfaction. Next, coming to the marginal rate of substitution. Marginal rate of substitution. Marginal rate of substitution is defined as the number of units of good Y that must be given up in exchange of extra unit of good X. Means the number of good Y that must be given in exchange of good X. Extra unit of good X. So that the consumer maintains the same level of satisfaction. To maintain the same level of satisfaction, the consumer exchange good X to good Y in extra unit of good Y. Okay, the slope of the indifference is known as marginal rate of substitution. Okay, how the consumer is substituting X to Y is known as marginal rate of substitution. Okay, how the consumer is substituting X to Y is known as marginal rate of substitution. This this is also known as slope of indifference curve. Slope of indifference curve is given by the equation dy by dx, means change in y to the change in good x. Okay, change in good y to the change in good x, or delta y by delta x. Okay. Suppose we take the table combination A, B, C, D. Good X 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good Y 12, 8, 5, 3, 2. Marginal rate of substitution is dy by dx. I said the dy by dx. Dy means 12 by dx. 1. 12 by 1, 12. Like that. 8, next 8 by 2, 4. 5 by 3, okay, like that. Okay. Next, assumptions of indifference curve analysis. Coming to the assumptions of indifference curve analysis. Uh, as the cardinal utility or the law of diminishing approach, how they how they given the as the first assumption rationality. Here also has a assumption rationality. Okay, rationality. Rationality means a consumer aims to maximize his total satisfaction subject to the given income. The consumer always satisfies they always tries to satisfy their maximum maximum utility. Okay, with the given income. Next, in this approach we have ordinal utility. Okay, ordinal utility. Ordinal. Another assumption of the indifference curve is ordinal utility. As I said, the ordinal utility approach is measured in terms of qualitative approach. Does not measure in terms of numerical approach. It measures in terms of qualitative approach. Indifference curve analysis also measured in terms of qualitative terms. Okay. Next assumption is consistency. Indifference curve assumes that consumer is consistent in behavior. The consumer is in consistent. Okay. This condition requires if consumer consumes bundle A, suppose the consumer consumes bundle A, bundle to the bundle B, he does not to bundle B, he does not. At the in time prefer bundle B to bundle A. Means the consumer consumes bundle A to bundle B. Also, he prefers to the bundle B to bundle A. Okay. Suppose the consumer next transitivity. Another assumption is transitivity. Transitivity means that if a person prefers bundle or combination of good A to good B or B to and B to C, then it is known as transitivity. Means the person consumes good A to good B and B to C, then it is known as transitivity. Okay. Non-satiety. Non-satiety means consumer always prefers more of commodity to less. The consumer always prefers more commodity to less. The assumption that a consumer prefers more to less implies that he is not oversupplied or over satiated with any good. Means the consumer does not over satiated. Okay, when a consumer is over satiated or oversupplied with any good, he will prefer a smaller quantity. Suppose the consumer over satiated, then the consumer prefer to the lower commodity or smaller quantity of good instead of preferring larger one. Okay. Next, weak ordering. Next assumption is weak ordering. Indifference curve is based on the weak ordering assumption. This indicates that the consumer never reveals his preference for a particular combination or same indifference curve, but will be indifferent between various combinations. Means the consumer indifferent between various combinations, but does not reveal his preference. Okay. Next assumption, diminishing marginal rate of substitution. The indifference curve assumption is diminishing marginal rate of substitution. The slope of indifference curve is diminishes. Okay, means that's why the indifference curve is convex to the origin. The indifference curve, as we see in the graph, we can see that the indifference curve is always convex to the origin. The slope of a indifference curve is diminishing. That's why the convex to the origin indifference curve. Okay. Indifference curve for perfect substitutes and complements. Next we come to the topic indifference curve for perfect substitutes and complements. Means substitute goods and complement goods. Suppose the substitute goods. Substitute goods means the goods which are substituted. Suppose we take coffee for tea. Suppose the price of tea increases, then you substitute for the coffee. That these goods are known as substitute goods. Complement goods means depends on depending goods. Suppose the petrol and the vehicle. So the vehicle depends on the petrol price. Huh? The indifference curves of these goods are two goods are perfect substitutes if they substituted for other at constant rate. Ball pen and fountain pen, these are the substitute goods. Means ball pen is substituted with fountain pen. In other words, the marginal rate of substitution of these goods is constant. The marginal rate, the slope of the indifference curve is of these goods is constant. Okay, this is that's why this curve, the indifference curve of these substitute goods is straight line, which touches to the x-axis and y-axis. Okay. Next, coming to the indifference curve of complement goods. Okay. Complement goods means, as I said, the petrol, which is dependent goods. The good which is depend on another good is known as complement goods. In case of complement goods, since the indifference curve is a L shape, the indifference curve is a L shape. L shaped curve is known as the complement goods indifference curve. Okay. Next, coming to the properties of indifference curve. First property of indifference curve is indifference curve slope downwards to the right. The indifference curve slopes to the downwards to the right. As we see in the graph, we see that the indifference curve downwards slopes from uh, downwards to slope from right. Okay, downwards slope from downwards to the right. Okay. Next, indifference curve is convex. Convex. As I said, the indifference curve is convex to the origin. The indifference curve is convex to the origin. Okay. Next, indifference curve never intersect each other. Suppose we take the two indifference curves in. As I said, the indifference map we take, the indifference, two indifference curves never intersect each other. Okay, means they does not intersect each other. Okay. Next, higher the indifference curve, higher the satisfaction. Lower the indifference curve, lower the satisfaction. As we go uh, higher indifference curves, the level of satisfaction increases. As we go down in how, as we go lesser the indifference curve, lower the satisfaction. Okay. Next, indifference curve does not touch horizontal axis, vertical axis. Means the indifference curve does not touch its x-axis or y-axis. Okay. Okay. Then. Uh, Thank you, students. Completed this lecture. Uh, okay. I hope